Hello, RC fans. Racing 393. There's a picture. Any regrets in life? Probably, for the most part, there are. Unfortunately, it could be good or bad, but there are regrets that we all have. Now, before you start thinking too deep, we're talking about RC and regrets. If you want to find out more, then keep watching.
RC regrets. Okay, they're not exactly world changing problems, are they? End of the day, it's a hobby. But regrets.
So here we go. This is going to be a selection of small regrets regarding my RC hobby. Now, this picture you see here is kind of a conglomerate of my old RC spares, and there's a few cars in there that I had, and I've had these for quite a while. Got to the point where I thought to myself, I'm not going to get back into the hobby. So, hindsight maybe is the more apt word. I'll go into what I've got in here, this picture, the best I can remember. So it's just, you can see a chassis at the bottom of the screen. That, I'm just trying to think back. I don't, that I think is an original Madcap, which I modded to take the body shell, which you can see the pink and black body shell, is in fact a Mercedes 190E Lexan. It's not a Tamiya body. Anyway, I don't think it was. When I put that on a Madcap, you can see by the pictures there that I have changed. There's quite a lot changed in that Madcap. I'm not saying it's brilliant, but I wanted to make it into like a saloon or stroke slash touring car. There's other things on there. I'm not sure if you can see them. Mardave Mini, an original Mardave Mini. And towards the back or the foreground of that photo is my very first Nitro. So this is a close-up of the Madcap. The very crude way of mounting the body. The wiring's probably shot. I don't know what I was thinking there. Things are broken over the years. But more interestingly, that speed controller was one of the very first transitions from mechanical to electronic made by Futaba. I can remember that costing me close, if not three figures. So we're talking at least £100. £100 is about $180. It was new technology. So what a difference. I can actually remember my thought of, you got to remember also, my knowledge in general with RC cars was very limited. Tamiya was pretty much all I sort of messed around with. The odd Mardave and the Schumacher Nitro car, which we'll look at a bit closer up at that. Another very, very, and I'll rephrase it another way, rare hop up on that Nitro car. Interestingly, that was the first electronic speed controller that I was aware of that I got from my local hobby store, which was probably, thinking back then, Apex Models. So, very big model store in Crowthorne, which wasn't a million miles away from where I lived at the time. I could often remember on a Saturday zooming down there just to spend whatever money I had in my pocket and, dare I say it, credit card. But yeah, so let's let's delve in a little deeper with what's in this picture. So it's just a simple box of spares like you get. This box was full. Nothing, nothing expensive that I can remember, but a few nitro bits, a pull start, one of those old type of exhausts, which I've got plenty full of them now. Not that I use them, but fairly common back in those days. This picture, just to reiterate, was probably from about, I don't know, 2017, 18, something like that. So it's not that long ago I sold this, but everything in the picture goes back to mid 90s at least. I'm not sure when the Madcap came out. At the time, I was still racing. I was either just out of karting or finishing off karting. So it was about that sort of between 92, 93, 95, something like that. More spares, plentiful, springs, couple of shocks, grease, They must have been Tamiya hop-up springs, which in themselves were quite expensive. Not now, like if you get a set of those Tamiya tuning springs, they may have even been Schumacher. I can't remember at the time, but like always, the latest and greatest you just have to have. One of my Mardave minis, that was complete, hardly used. I've still got another original Mardave mini, which is I used to use it. I worked in a warehouse at the time, nice flat floor, and at the end of the day when we finished, my manager, who at the time was one of my best mates, he also had one. So we used to race up and down the warehouse on quite a slippery stroke dusty floor. It was actually, very good fun. I can remember back in those days. So we finished work, but then carried on playing with the RC cars. Never got home to, like, I don't know. If we finished at like 5, for example, we sort of get home about 6:30. So the only reason to stay on work is to play with your RC. Just a few transmitters. I think one of those Futaba Attack 2. I've still got one of those. Quite collectible, I suppose, nowadays. As you look at the picture on the right-hand side, you can just see a little spiky tyre. Not sure if I've got a close-up of that picture, but that nowadays you can never get them. That's the Madcap front wheel and tyre. I do remember having brand new wheels and tyres for that Madcap, but didn't put them on. They'd worn out from I used it before, so I bought new ones. But in the meantime, I then decided to go over to making it more of a tarmac type of car, and that trend has stuck even to today. But yeah, super rare those tyres are now. I wonder if they'll ever release the Madcap or re-release it. I don't know. I don't know what drew me towards it, because looking back, it was a bit too futuristic for me. But when you see it in the flesh, it was actually very impressive. Had blue shocks on it, if I remember rightly, and weren't they friction shocks? But a ton load of hop-ups back in the day for that car. More random stuff, spiky tyres. That one in the front there, the white wheel with the spiky tyre, that's a Schumacher one. Not sure what those others are on the left on the picture as you look at it, but the one below you can see is a fairly good conditioned, it has been used, Madcap rear wheel and tyre. I think I sold the whole lot, everything, for about £100. I must have been mad. In fact, I think a couple of weeks after that is when I started, because it was lockdown, wasn't it? So that was the reasoning, and I bought a Hotshot. Then I was immediately thinking I shouldn't have got rid of that stuff, but we live and learn. So this is the picture I was sort of alluding to. This was my very first Nitro, a Schumacher Nitro 10. They did various versions of this, the truck, I think there was a rally car and a touring car. This was the touring car version. Now what I want you to look at is where the engine is. Let me just try and zoom in a little bit. Now, my knowledge of the engine this was, I know it was a hop-up, They weren't called hop-ups on Schumachers, were they? What were they? I can't remember what they're called now. But that's not the engine that came with the kit. And also, I specifically and very distinctively remember going into Apex Models, because I used to know the people in there really well. I spent enough money with them, and they knew this hadn't long been out. So whether or not this came out mid-90s to sort of, I can remember finishing work on a Friday, absolutely buzzing. I don't know how I had like £300 cash. I wasn't exactly, and it definitely wasn't at that point a credit card. I don't know where I got that money from. I was working, wasn't a very good saver, but do remember having a pocket full of cash that was literally going on this car. So over the course of that year, 6 months to 12 months of owning this car, I was then aware, because I went into the shop many times, that a 2-speed gearbox came out. And as you can see, it's got a clutch bell with 2 gears on it, and you can see the spur gear separated there, but two spur gears. In my experience of RC then, which is still limited, 2-speed nitros were probably plentiful if you're into your nitros, but I never knew about it until then. And I can remember buying this kit, and it was a lot of money. It was like half the price of what I'd paid for the kit to start with. I can remember it being like 100 and something, new technology, and you can. I've never ever seen this since. So what would be interesting is if anybody out there knows what this was. I can't remember. All I know, it was a 2-speed gearbox hop-up for that particular engine, which was for, it probably fitted many other, nitros at the time, but it was specifically sold to me to fit that chassis, because I wouldn't have been keyed up enough to know which engine would fit what chassis. I just wasn't that way. Even though the magazines had plenty of nitros in them, the internet was, back then I didn't have internet then, so it's not something you can just log on and go on Google and have a look, because it just wasn't around. I think it was Ask Jeeves or something, maybe very primitive internet, dial-up probably, which took forever. So if you know what that is, I would really like to know. I mean, I've been looking for a Nitro 10 for quite a long time. They have been up, but they're very similar to the other Schumacher truck, the XTRE3. That was the 3-speed. I've got one of them, and up there I'm looking at it now. It's on my channel, a rebuilt and powder coated chassis, but a rebuilt chassis. It's not that engine, it's a different engine. The exhaust on the one I'm looking at sort of curves round and it goes along the chassis, where this one you can see does traditional at the side like they would. But I know for a fact that that chassis was probably older than the one up there that you can see. So, well, not you can see, that I can see. So I should get that, shouldn't I? I should show you it. Maybe towards the end of this video I might show you that one. It's on my channel anyway. So anyway, probably one of my biggest RC regrets is getting rid of that chassis, if I'm honest with you. In fact, looking at that now, as I just sort of scooted the picture around a little bit, it's very similar layout to the other Schumacher XTE truck. Do you know the one that I'm talking about? So the layout, Nitro 10, and that truck, which wasn't a Nitro 10, is very similar. It's very similar to that one up there. Maybe I'll get that and show you it. Whilst we're on this picture, it might be a better idea, mightn't it? So let me just go and grab that one, and we'll compare it just briefly to this one, because I didn't realise how closely related they were. Yeah, give me 2 seconds. So you can see here, I've got the camera at a different angle, so I'm not actually looking. I can look at the camera, but I'm looking at my screen. This is the one I sort of refurbished. It's pretty much in absolutely mint condition. But if you look down on the way this is laid out, you can see that it's the same chassis. It's not the same engine, but you can see where that exhaust goes across. It's a different layout of electrics, but it's the same era. Do you know what I mean? So looking at that, that's where and that picture behind, the one I showed you, that's where the 2-speed would be. But it is a very similar process, and you can still see, why I go down the tarmac route with these tyres. They're not glued on there yet, but and that needs trimming. But it is a runner, and it's absolutely mint. So I had this powder coated. So yeah, there's videos on my channel stating this. Different coloured wheels. I did dye them ones, and that's the original colour. But I don't know. I prefer them ones, to be honest. Yeah. So let's put that down in a second. Yes. So very interesting that they're what I know now. I didn't know then at all. So yeah. So I kind of have got one of them. I've got another one in the shed, which is 3-speed. It basically needs the engine pulled down, stripped, and looked at. That one does run. That one runs quite. It was quite tricky to get that running, but it did run, and it's in very good condition. So that'll be out and about in the summer. Like I said last winter, but I will try and get out more because I need to run some of these cars. But yeah, so that was probably one of my main regrets of selling all that RC stuff. Just a few more Nitro bits and pieces in packets, sealed by Schumacher. I think Apex Models was a Schumacher supplier locally to me at the time. I seem to remember them having a lot of Schumacher cars, lots of electric, because they were in the window, and quite a number of Nitros. Nitro was much bigger, more accessible back then, I guess. So you can see the box there was the touring car box for this Nitro 10, and that body shell was made. What was that body shell actually? I'm just trying to think, because I tried to make the car look like, because another hobby, I say a hobby, interest of mine, and hobby because I did it as well, was the UK stock car racing scene, Speedworth. I race super stocks. Now they race many other formulas on the ovals in the UK. I'm not going to go into details now, but the other ones that they still race and raced is based on what this was looking like, a national hot rod. So wide arches, a small rear-wheel drive, fast oval car, and that's pretty much was my planning behind it, and it went really well. I used to have a Porsche 911 body on it, which I bought from Apex Models. I can remember using that pretty much where I use them now, but back then I wasn't living near here. And ironically, I used the same area, the runway, but back then it was with that Nitro, the 2-speed, and I can remember that flying down the runway with the Porsche body on it, and it got like what they call parachuted, where it just went along and it just lifted up. I can remember that happening when it went into 2-speed. Yeah, I was fascinated by the fact that it changed gear, and it was really quick. But I mean, it's probably the same as what most are now, but somehow I got it all running with very limited, if not zero, knowledge of what I was doing, just basic engineering thoughts. And I try to apply that now. It doesn't seem to work nowadays. Maybe I can't, maybe I don't know anything, but certainly in those days, it was just chuck fuel in and give it a go. I'm a little bit more meticulous now, and I still get good results out of what nitros I have got and get them running, but it just takes takes more time. Don't know. As you get older, maybe you slow down a little bit. Who knows? And just a few more spares. You can see that Apex Racing, Apex Models is where I used to go. So this video is about regrets. Yeah, and I've got to say, I do regret selling what looks like a lot of crap, but it's actually quite rare. In fact, both those are rare, aren't they? The Nitro 10 and the Tamiya Madcap. So to finish this video, what are your thoughts? Have you got any RC regrets? You know, I'm not talking about really deep psychological regrets here, just things you had in the past that you felt you wish you had now. You know, life won't change much. You know, if I haven't got that stuff, it doesn't matter. I've got what you can't see. Like I've said before, all this. I've got the shed. I've got all my kits, my build videos, the kits I haven't built. You know, I'm in a much better place now regarding my RC hobby. I think it's also as you get older, you do appreciate your youth more. When you are young, and I'll say when you are in your 20s, you're not far out of school, are you, or education? So your youth from when you are 20 is less impactful on your life. But the thing is, from my sort of, I don't know, between 19, I suppose, and 30, lots of other distractions. During that part of my life, I was into, real racing, karting, stock car racing, and all sorts. Watching racing, going to see the touring cars, real life racing. Although I was into the hobby, I never really delved deep enough to maybe go and race. I was aware of it, but I wasn't perhaps aware so much of the time and the complexity of racing. You've got to bear in mind, pretty much, I'm not a Tamiya fanboy, but I just grew up around Tamiya and Schumacher. If you read the magazines, or even on a very occasionally, I might have gone to the local club where I lived at the time that run, what did they run? It was a track, so they must have run touring cars. But when you start reading the magazines, no one runs a Tamiya. I think Schumacher, Kyosho, and Associated was kind of there were others, but they were the three main ones. And for racing at RC level, at any level that you thought, well, they're good, was expensive. It wasn't just a case of rocking up in your Tamiya car and racing, although there probably was clubs that did that. So it's that failing to look further into it because I had other interests. Real racing, going down the pub with your mates, girlfriends, all that sort of stuff tended to prioritize driving, learning to drive when I was 17. It couldn't be further away from RC racing. The hobby of the RC was still in my blood. So hence I bought these cars, and I had a couple of mates at the time who also did rally control cars. Not seriously, but just over Blackbush or in a warehouse, so it wasn't serious enough. It was just what I needed. I enjoyed that. I don't regret not racing, but there's obviously forks in the road where you think, what if I did that? To race in real life, karts, stock cars, whatever it is that you might do, it takes up time. If you did RC racing, that would be your hobby, that time. You certainly wouldn't be able to race in real life. I know what you're going to say. There are people that do, and I know what you're thinking. Yes, there are. But that would take up too much time. And for me, not working, real life racing, RC racing. Oh, I can't split myself in half. Girlfriend. Oh. Well, girlfriend was down the bottom of the list. Shouldn't be, should it? Selfish. Anyway, regrets. We all have them. What are yours? RC related. Do you have any? Do you not have any? It'd be interesting to hear. I hope you enjoyed this little trip down my nostalgic memories. I can't believe I still got these pictures. Well, I can't believe how long ago these pictures were based on. They were taken recently, but sort of just before COVID, before 2019. But the actual cars relate back to the 90s. So, yeah. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your regrets. Also, let me know if you've got a 2-speed Schumacher Nitro 10 or even a Nitro 10 that's in good condition and you want to sell it. Might be interested. So, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.